I would love to see a game between Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk in chess. Unfortunately, that's probably not going to happen. So the next best thing is making their chess.com bots play each other. Let's see how this game went. Welcome to the most sophisticated chess game you'll ever see. And you know this because the game starts with the move c3, which does nothing, and the move f6, which is even worse. The point of this is to just move your king and delay development. We now have e4, and after the knight hops to the corner, actually Melon is doing a pretty good job. The point is to probably just take this knight and just punish on the weak squares infinitely. We have this move g5 trying to probably protect against the bishop taking, but this is really bad. The queen is going to come, the bishop is going to come, and black is going to fall apart. Bishop to c4. Melon is attacking, and e6 by Zark to protect to protect against mate. This would be really bad if the game just ends immediately. So after knight to d2 and a5, the game is getting interesting. White has a strong center, and black has pieces out, kind of. Now, this is a bad move by Melon because this bishop can just kind of be kicked away, and it gives time to develop their own pieces. However, Zark just decides, instead of punishing, Melon's bad move, why not move your king to the center of the board? Because why not? After the bishop retreats, we have the knight developing and pushing the pawn. This is a really good move, just trying to break the center open, because if something like takes, the queen is coming, the rook is going to come after castles, and this king is going to be hunted down and killed. So we have the knight jumping to the center, which is another good move, just attacking the bishop, trying to stop the attack from Melon. And after the bishop moves back, we have the move b5. The knight comes trying to trade, trying to get rid of one of the defenders of the king. However, instead of this, we get this move d6. The point being, if it takes, you're going to have this big sort of clunky pawns protecting the king, which is decent. But this provokes a weakness for white to attack this pawn that you just used to be defended, but now is not. So we have takes, and now the king is weak. The bishop comes up, the queen pins the knight to the king, and after castles, the idea being to run the king out to this side of the board, away from the pin, we get castles. After castles, the king starts to run, the rook comes to the center, trying to attack, and we get this move f5. However, this is too much weak pieces on this side of the board, and all of a sudden, Elon Musk starts to attack. We have rook to g8, knight to f3, and the king starts to run. This pawn is going to be lost, or these pieces will. We get a knight trade here, the pawn takes, and we rook takes here. All these pawns are weak, the bishops attack immediately, and the king just has nowhere to hide except for this corner over here, except the biggest issue being that there's so much space on this side of the board, it's going to be really hard to defend. The king hops over to b7, the bishop takes the pawn, the knight hops, attacking the rook here, so the rook just retreats. Now we have the queen coming here, perhaps protecting this pawn from the knight and the bishop, also protecting the knight potentially for if there is more pressure on it. The bishop retreats, the knight retreats hitting the queen, and all of a sudden we now have a sort of potential attack on the king with this rook, and these bishops if this pawn ever disappears. Now the queen retreats and the bishop comes here. Now Zark is trying to solidify his center. He's desperately putting all his pieces on this side of the board, trying to cling on for dear life. However, after the knight hops to the center, the pawn comes up one square. I don't know the purpose of this move. Ignore that. The rook comes, and all of a sudden, he cannot take this because it comes a check. He can, but his position would just absolutely fall apart. There's no reason he would ever take that. But now we are having big issues. Now this pawn has fallen. Mark Zuckerberg just tries to desperately push his pawns. The queen comes, potentially trying to come here. The bishop attacks the queen, and all of a sudden we have the move c4. The bishop comes back, and all of a sudden, after the move c5, the position for black crumbles. The bishop takes the piece, and all of a sudden, savage move by Melon, c6 check. The bishop takes, and then not even taking back, giving a knight check to the king. The king moves up, and they take the queen because of the discovered check. After takes, the queen moves up, having way more discovered checks. The bishop just ignores that because, Why stop the only potential attack you have? And then after knight to d7 check, the king moves up, takes the piece, takes, and we have just simplified into a completely losing endgame for Zuckerberg. After the queen infiltrates on the back rank, they decide to completely forget about the fact that there's these potential bishop checks here. I think, where was it? Was it in this position? Here, no, here there's a nice tactic. If you go here, when the king takes, this rook is just left hanging, but Melon doesn't see it, and instead we get this position where it's harder to do these sorts of tactics, and instead we just hit the bishop. The rook comes here protecting the bishop. Our bishop moves here, and we get this position. Now the rook and queen attack the square, so obviously you take it on the next turn, right? Well, obviously you take. There's no need for this, yet Melon decides to be risky. He decides for some reason to protect this pawn, even though he's going to easily checkmate by taking with the rook here, or even the queen. Now the king just goes to the corner, and the queen finally takes. The bishop takes, sacrificing itself as a last-ditch attempt. The king moves over. The rook comes up. There's going to be checkmates. The bishop moves back, trying desperately to get a final checkmate in, and yet Melon does not disappoint. Check with the queen and checkmate with the rook. Thank you for watching the video, and subscribe for more videos like this one.